2021 has come to an end, and I brought the all-stars of the Productive Conversations podcast together, and it's time for us to reflect on the great things that happen all year round in the world of sports, pop culture, news, politics, business, and all of that. So let's introduce this all-star team right now. First, we have all the way from Staten Island, we have Bryan McKeon from Staten Island going to the he is a graduate student at Manhattanville College. That's correct, right? Studying structural engineering.
Yes, sir.
Oh, man, it's great to see you, man. Looking good, my friend.
It's a pleasure to be back.
Oh, excellent. We have Alex Young, hailing from where in New Jersey?
Parsippany now.
Parsippany, New Jersey now.
This
Alex,
is the New Jersey podcast now.
It is now. It is the New Jersey podcast. That being here now.
Yes, look how far we've come, and we also have representing the Bronx and Bryan here. But Alex, it's great to see you, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, Matt. It's great to see you again. Great to be with everyone here for this at a year in review kind of podcast. I'm excited to be on here. So thanks again for having me.
All right, great to see you. And Ryan Page, co-host of the Tweet Cab. He's from New Brunswick. No, sorry. Wow,
You can say New Brunswick. Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, New Brunswick, New Jersey, and he's from a section that I can't remember.
I'd like to point out, you said this is the all-star team, and I'm on the all-star team only if longevity and perseverance can be replaced for talent. So I appreciate being called up to the all-star team simply by being here the most frequently. And I will continue that trend well into 2022, hopefully.
Just like Eli Manning, man. And then me, yes, now this is the new season of the show coming out of Jersey City, New Jersey. And even though I did feel a little under the weather today, I didn't want anybody freak out my experience, but I did test negative for COVID-19. I even have the results from my PCR test. So that's why I look like a PFT or a young Howard Stern, but I'm just Matt Brown. So this is going to be it. And let's get to it. So let me explain this concept of the first ever timeline podcast, inspired by our spiritual YouTube friends, the Weird History. This is going to be the timeline podcast for 2021. So we're going to go through the year, January to December, as we're recording this on December 27th, 2021. And we're just going to talk about the most significant events in, as I mentioned, sports, pop culture, news, business, all of that. And we're just going to, reminisce from these memories, good and bad. We'll talk about our perspective from it, our instant reactions, and bringing us all together to reflect on another crazy year that 2021 has been after such a life-altering 2020 year prior. So it's only time to go from there, and let's begin. So you guys ready? Everybody got the gist of it before we go?
I'm excited for this. I'm all ready for it.
Let's
all
go.
Right, here we go. Now, this is, I guess, if you want to talk about setting the tone, this significant event in the United States took place on the 6th of January this year. And like I said, it really set the tone for 2021. But on January 6, 2021, a group of Trump supporters simply attacked the U.S. Capitol on the brink of the inauguration of Joe Biden, which has led to lots of political discourse, QAnon phenomenon, a stronger divide between the right and the left. And sadly, in an event that led to people being injured, it's even led to death. It is now, like I said, I think people will remember where they were January 6, 2021, and it'll be another day in infamy. And as I mentioned to these guys before we recorded, we're not exactly here to spark any controversy, but of course, we have the open floor to speak your mind. But I just want to talk about the event. Like I said, January 6, 2021. Do you remember where you guys were at specifically? For me, I remember it was snowing I was back in Connecticut. There was snow on the ground. I did a job interview the day before, so I was just being an anxious candidate waiting to see my fate. And I was just hanging out listening to the radio. I was listening to Evan Roberts and Craig Carton sports show, and they were talking about how, hey, there's these people attacking the US Capitol. I texted you, Ryan, about this. Hey, this is not normal. And everybody was glued to their TVs or screens or Twitter after that. That's what I remember from that day. What do you guys remember where you were, or were you at work, or were you waiting for a job decision as well? What was your day like? I'll throw it to the floor.
I feel like almost everybody was home in some way, because I know I was working from home at that point. I think pretty much everybody was by January. So that's what made it crazier. Well, we're starting on a real killjoy, by the way.
Hey, that's what happened in the year.
All right. Yeah, chronologically, it is literally 6 days into the year. So good on us for doing so good for 6 whole days before we did this. But
right.
Yeah, I think everybody was home, which is what made it so kind of impactful for everybody, because you couldn't, you couldn't bury your head in work and be like, well, I'm sure it'll all sort itself out. Because we were all, yes, everybody was working, but when you work from home, you've got, a movie on, or you've got the news on or the radio on, you're listening to music, maybe you stop and take a break to do something. Whereas when you're in an office, obviously you can't do that because you're in an office. So I feel like everybody had at least the ability to check it out. And even if you were just like, let me just see what's going on for a second, by the time you got to the actual news station, you were probably going to keep that thing on for the rest of the day, or for the next however many hours it ended up being. So I think that that's probably what made it so impactful. Beyond that, it was, never happened before, is that everybody was home. Everybody had to see it. They had to deal with it in some ways.
I think I don't know. I don't remember if I was on my way to work. I might have been in one of the few days I was in the office. But same thing. I was listening to Evan and Craig on WFN on my way, and they were saying that, and I thought they were kidding at first. And then when I heard Evan's tone and Craig's tone, they were dead serious. Like, this is happening. You guys need to tune in. And I got into work, and I remember I opened up my laptop and I went straight on Twitter and all the news sources. Sure enough, I saw the headline. I was like, what's going on here? And Ryan said, it was like, you're just glued to your screen for X amount of hours after that, seeing all the footage that was going on in there. What's going on? Are people hurt? Do people die? Is anyone in the political world in serious danger with everything going on here? And there's just a lot of, craziness. I was texting my girlfriend who was home. She was a teacher, but she was tuning in on the news, and, we were just going back and forth and like, what is going on here? And, it was definitely nerve wracking, but we were all glued to the screen, just seeing this unfold. Like, when is this going to end? We're hearing X amount of reports here, X amount of reports here. Don't know how many people were in the building or whatever. So it was definitely a time. I remember, I think I was like one of the few days I was in the office since the pandemic started, and I went straight on my phone or my computer, and I pulled up like CNN, and we just had the live feed on, and we were just, some of my coworkers were talking about what was going on, because it was just something that we've never seen before. It was crazy.
I remember for me, I was on my college campus. I was a resident assistant back then. I was my senior year of my undergrad. So I was, we were like cleaning up the dorms and stuff like that, getting everything ready, like decorated and stuff, because the new semester was going to start on the next week. So you could imagine, with the election and everything that happened on a college campus, there's a big divide between political views and stuff. So when this happened, even just with our group of like 24 like resident assistants, there was a lot of conflict in the air and tension. People like agreeing, disagreeing with what would happen and everything like that. And, just a lot of opinions going back and forth. But I never thought there would be an actual like coup in my lifetime in the US government. Like, we know the Boston Tea Party, we know like the American Revolution, we have War of 1812, Civil War. We've seen all this. And it's like, you think of that, that was 150, 300 years ago. And in modern society, we had a legit coup on January 6th. So, I was in shock. I just remember being like putting up like my bulletin board in my dorm, and then like getting like a notification on like the CNN app and being like, this can't be serious.
Man, I guess that would have been a hard transition from welcome back, folks. We got to sit and talk
Yeah.
about this.
No,
I
yeah,
mean,
that was the first thing that we talked about. Literally, like as like resident assistants, like in floor meetings, it was political stuff. Let's try to keep that, in the back right now. Let's try to heal as a group.
Ryan was already at his undergrad too. That would have been some program you had to put on, Ryan.
Well, we had the 2016 election.
Oh, so see, generations coming together to,
Yeah.
as a trend for people our age, we're just living through significant event after significant event before we're all 30 years old.
At least it wasn't a good coup. Like it didn't work.
It
right?
wasn't successful.
Yeah.
At the
We're
end of the
bad
day.
at it.
Yeah.
So
At least we have some systems in place that work.
little victories, right?
Yeah, I think it's just shocking that all these adults would be so inspired to come together to do this. And again, whatever side of the spectrum you are, I'll respect it, but that really was just inappropriate over everything. And as you mentioned, they failed.
Oh, careful with that scorching hot take, man.
Hey,
Inappropriate to overthrow the government. Don't do it.
they came back, they wanted 1 a.m. to finish their session. And then it just
Yes, they did.
that led to 2 weeks later on January 20th, 2021, where we had the inauguration of Joseph Biden. He is the 46th president of the United States. And what a day, many people were awaiting, many people were dreading. And, again, we're just about a full calendar year into President Biden's first term. And then we can save those debates for later. But to specifically talking about the inauguration itself, did you feel a weight lifted off this country's shoulders or the people around you? Or do you feel like this is just another upheaval? Is this like the Who said, new boss, same as the old boss? How do you feel when this day came after the last 4 years prior? Were you guys feeling, on a perspective way, on a perspective level, I should say?
I think honestly, for me, the whole 6th of January added significance to this date that it probably didn't necessarily earn. I mean, I know for a lot of people, they very much, myself included, I've been on your podcast a gazillion times. Don't think I can be very diplomatic because we did a show on January 6th. So myself included, we're looking forward to. But in reality, it's, an older white guy got elected president. Not particularly interesting. Had there not been, 4 years of the previous president plus January 6th, like it would have been rather uneventful and rather probably, not historical. I mean, like I said, we've seen it a million times. Well, not a million times. We've seen it 45 times out of 46. So it's just, I guess, having VP Harris made it different, obviously, in that regard. But what probably should have been very mundane took on this like crazy importance because of what had happened earlier in January, which is, again, we're in the year retrospective, and we haven't left January. And we already have a bunch of stuff to talk about. But yeah, I think that and it might be part of the problem we're seeing now, is how elevated everything was because of January, how elevated the importance of everything that this, 78-year-old man is going to do was because of what had happened in January, because of what the alternative looked like. And so it's why I think maybe now, even as we'll get through the rest of the year, everything has just been on eggshells. But the counterpoint to that is that this moment was definitely seen as a watershed moment for the country, because they made it through the other side of, everything that happened the 4 years earlier, whether you agree with that or not. And then more specifically, they made it through the other side of January 6th, which hopefully nobody actually thought was a good thing, and ended up with a peaceful transition of power, which is kind of like an award for, walking and chewing gum. But whatever, this year we deserved that. And so I think that was, that's my thought on it anyway, is that very important, but only because of everything that happened before it. See the beginning of this video to know what I'm talking about.
I also completely agree with what Ryan said. Just because everything happened on January 6th, we were wondering what the next steps were going to be, and it kind of became a rally for coming together instead of being divided, which what for me at least felt was happening the previous 4 years. But it was definitely a significant moment. I just remember feeling like a weight was lifted off my shoulders, but again, we're only a year in, so only time will tell how the rest of this is going to go. But definitely for that moment, I remember reflecting back, just finally thinking like, hey, this might be the moment where hopefully we start coming back together and, loving one another and not being divided and arguing over little tic-tac things here and there. So for me, looking back at it, I definitely felt like it was a positive moment. But like Ryan said, I felt like the significance definitely was increased after the events of January 6th. Otherwise, I think we probably would have just blown by this. It's been like, yeah, Biden's inauguration, awesome. Okay, next event, So I think now that we're talking on it, it kind of just shows that January 6th led to the significance of the inauguration.
How did we get through it?
Yeah, I agree with both. I agree with both Ryan and Alex. I feel like it helped us get grounded. Like we needed to get grounded after January 6th. Let's go back to our core root and what we believe in. And inauguration is one of the core things we believe in. The transition of power, just having the president. It's first, big announcement. Let's all talk. Here's a little template of what I want to do and stuff like that. Shout out Bernie Sanders mittens. I remember those. But I also feel like if you think of COVID, it's like the small victories, like sports seasons coming back. Having an inauguration was a big deal with COVID. That was that's like one of the major things every 4 years, and the pandemic didn't stop it. And from that, I feel like just that in itself, it was like, let's bring back the nation together. But also like you had this little small, I would say a big win on just we're getting back to normal.
Yeah, I think that's a great point that you made, especially the fact that, probably in March 2020, that inauguration seemed impossible. And we did get through it. And, as the years gone by, making those small victories, I think really have to remember that from now on, especially after this crazy month we've gone in as a nation, as a world with Omicron and stuff. And that may or may not be mentioned at the end. But bottom line, we have to appreciate those short wins. And let's take a break from the grueling news, because this moment in February 2021 may have changed this country for a different reason. And that is the announcement that Kim Ye was no more. Kim Kardashian and Kanye West officially broke up in February 2021. And hey, fast forward 10 months later, she has moved on with the fellow Pete Davidson. And I guess they're living happily ever after. But Kim Ye, guys, did you guys think they were going to make it at all? I thought for maybe a split second a few years ago, if she's putting up with all this mess, she must really love him. But, I guess what is that, her fourth marriage? Maybe.
I so.
I don't know.
I don't know I don't believe we're allowed to count this one. I think we give
that
her
doesn't
yes,
count.
This doesn't count.
They were married for 7 years.
I understand that. And if it had
7-year
happened,
itch.
and if it had happened 6 years or 6 years in or 5 years in, then yeah, she married 4 times. No one should have saw this coming. But the trajectory that Kanye West has put himself on, Kim gets a pass. I don't know what her intentions were, but 7 years doesn't matter. Maybe it was for life, but Kanye did a very good job of making sure that was not going to be a sustainable relationship. I think she stayed with him as long as she did to make sure that there was somebody in his life who was at least somewhat tethered to reality. And here's the thing. If the Kardashian family is your connection to the reality, oh boy. But I mean, again, had it been 6 years, I've been like, of course they're going to get divorced. But really, 7 years is a long time. I mean, think about Chris Humphries. What was that, 7 whole minutes?
Something like that, yeah.
So, like, 7 years is a long time in that family and in that world.
Yeah.
But again, I think 7 years meant that she was in it for the long haul, and Kanye he lost it. I don't even know if he ever really had it, but he certainly showed that he lost it, whatever it is. And yeah, he's only gotten weirder, but he's been a little less like scary weird and a little more like haha weird. So we'll take that. Again, little victories in 2021, like Brian said. I like that. The year of little victories. Kanye West
Small
is now,
wins.
yeah,
Small
he's
wins.
funny now, not scary. And so little wins.
I really hate to report this, but it was literally reported today that he bought a house across the street from her. I'm not kidding.
Oh,
You
no.
can literally Google that.
That just says problems right there.
Yeah.
That's just waiting for
he can
an
use the
incident.
he can use the I'm gonna just want to be closer to my kids, the co-parent, but at the end of the day, there could still be some issues.
I think that was the last straw for Kim. I think the minute he started getting a little weird, starting running for president, he starts, you could tell his mental state started, spiraling out a little bit, which I felt bad for the guy. He looked like he definitely needed some help and stuff like that, some type of resource or assistance. But like, it definitely probably got to a point where the kids started getting scared, and she jumped, she jumped ship, which you got to do right for what's your kids and stuff like that. But she's now with a Staten Island guy, Pete Davidson. So
right. So have we considered the possibility, and Brian, you can speak to this more, that Kim Kardashian decides to move to Staten Island to get away from Kanye West? Because that shows, I think that's almost like a restraining order.
Yeah, literally, you're sending yourself to a dump. The way I think about it is like this. I don't know what Pete Davidson's doing, because he's the goofball we all know and love. But this man got Kim Kardashian to go eat on Staten Island and then probably go hang out at his mother's basement in Staten Island. I just wanted to think about that. So it might be for real with this one. She maybe finally found love. Ray J, Reggie Bush, Chris Humphries, Kanye. It might be Pete Davidson.
Well, I think we can't underestimate that maybe Kanye is looking through her window from the house he just bought. And so being on Staten Island with Pete Davidson, right, allows her to not be in the crosshairs of whatever Kanye West is doing across the street.
Listen, I'm all for her to come here. It's just tourists, and it brings more money to the borough.
Absolutely. Home of Kim Kardashian and Pete Davidson.
Get that right next to the Verrazano Bridge. Instead of welcome to New York, welcome to Kim's place.
Yeah, you name it. What is their nickname? So it's Kim Ye, but what is Pete Davidson and Kim? What are we calling them?
Clusterfuck confusion.
Because that's the name of the bridge now.
The Davy.
No, that's someone who can do ship names. You should, tweet at @tweetcap or at Productive Conversations Podcast there and tell us what the ship name is so we can send it to Staten Island and get the bridge renamed.
Oh man. Well, in other significant events that took place in February 7th was the day Super Bowl 55 took place, where the Kansas City Chiefs, reigning Super Bowl champions, got their ass beat, losing to Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 31-9 at their home field in Tampa, Florida, leading to the Buccaneers' second Super Bowl overall and Tom Brady's 7th Super Bowl championship, more than any franchise. And I think whether you love him or hate him, this confirms Tom Brady's the greatest hand of not only quarterback, obviously football, even though football is definitely different by different positions, but hey, he's just the ultimate NFL champion, and he's still at it. Just clinched the division yesterday. And Tom Brady is going, and as long as his heart lets him at this point. Looking back, I mean, do you feel this killed Patrick Mahomes' momentum? He could have won a second Super Bowl in his first 4 seasons. Then you had, also the Chiefs reckon they've bounced back since the season has began in the middle part of it. This really destroyed them. And like I said, only scoring 9 points with such a great offense. And obviously the big thing people remember is how they lost 2 of their starting guards and nobody could protect Mahomes. And that shows even someone as versatile as him, if you don't have any offensive line whatsoever, you are literally fucked. And then Tom Brady, just once again, him and Gronk is just leading that stellar offense, and they're reigning champions. And there's a good chance that they could find themselves in the NFC title picture again and see if he can win number 8. How we look at this game, a year later and what it means for the future. Does this confirm all the things I mentioned, or, are there other thoughts regarding this?
Brady's the GOAT. I think he's the best athlete ever, even over, Michael Jordan, just because he doesn't have skills like Michael Jordan or anyone like that. He's more of a cerebral guy, and he learned how to play with what he was given. And, he wasn't given with a lot. We've all seen his combine picture, scrawny man, from Michigan, 6th round, just trying to do his thing. I think the bigger thing is, though, like, Tom Brady's going to win rings all the time. I think the issue was that Pat Mahomes lost a year. That year was wasted. You could say whatever you want. I told you on the first podcast I did, you're only as good as your rookie contracts. They wasted 1 year on rookie contracts that now, once those lose, they get bigger contracts if they play well, and you can't build that team up. You're only as good as, as long as you keep your core together. And they lost that 1 year of, you have Kelsey and Hill, and you have Clyde Edwards-Helaire, you have Mahomes, you have all those Hardman, you have all those guys, you got Tyrann Mathieu. Now you have one less year to, make the magic work.
I just was shocked. I was expecting a shootout in that one, honestly. I just knew how good the Bucs defense was overall. I knew they had to, hold their own, and they just dominated once those guards went. They were just bringing pressure, and Mahomes out to answer. And like Brian said, it's just, you did lose a year Mahomes, and then you see him early on this year, and we're like, what is going on with him? What is this something, he didn't look like a St. Patrick Mahomes to start the season after the Super Bowl loss. And I know they got their things together and they're looking, the ship's right. But just to go back to the Brady, we see him go to Tampa and we're like, okay, it's a pretty good situation. Defense is great. Their offense has a lot of weapons, but it's like they never really got over the hump. And then everyone was debating, was Bill Belichick the main person behind this, or was it Tom? And the fact that he went there and the Patriots fell apart, now they were fine, Belichick got his next quarterback, but it fell apart, and Brady goes to a new team, and in his first year with that new team, goes all the way and wins a Super Bowl. Just shows how great he is, and just solidified, after I saw him win against a good Chiefs team, just solidified me that he's the greatest football player we've ever seen. There's a bunch of talent, like you said, position by position. You could argue, Lawrence Taylor is the best athlete, or Deion Sanders, whoever across the board, but he has 7 Super Bowls and won with 2 different franchises. And I believe he's like one of 2 quarterbacks to win a Super Bowl 2 other franchises. So
yeah, him and
it just shows. Yeah. So it just shows how dominant he is as a player. And it just, once I saw him dominate that game, I was like, that's it. He could finish now. No one's going to argue with him that he's the greatest quarterback and arguably the greatest football player we've ever seen.
So I follow football insofar as I play fantasy football. That is my football knowledge. Matt knows this. Also, shout out to Tom Brady this year, taking me to another championship, which is nice. Well, I haven't won it yet, but we're getting there.
Good luck.
But I'm going to do, and again, saying this as the least qualified person on camera to speak on the subject, I'm going to defend Pat Mahomes just a little bit more.
Yeah.
Everything about Tom Brady is true. That's fine. But I don't know anything about football, and I knew that you can't block and throw the football at the same time. You can't do that. And nobody with the blocking job description was particularly, keen on blocking. You'd think that Patrick Mahomes had done something to them. They literally, it was like Swiss cheese. People were getting through constantly. So, again, at the beginning of the season, all that's true as well. And maybe he was just rattled still. Also, he's got a new family, and maybe he's just I don't know if I need to get hit as much as I've been hit the last, that last game to make this much money. But in his defense, it is almost impossible to score as a quarterback if you have to consistently worry about whether or not you're going to get absolutely destroyed. And in the Super Bowl, it was pretty clear to me. And then my fiance, we watched as well together. Again, not a big football person. And we both were like, oh, no one is doing the blocking bit. They just he gets the ball and he has about 5 seconds to find an open person and throw it, or else. And it's like a threat of violence, or else. So I would just say that hopefully, hopefully Tom Brady continues this streak so I can win a championship, but also hopefully Patrick Mahomes doesn't get disheartened, doesn't, fall into a slump based off of this, which does happen. I mean, I'm a Jets fan. I've seen it happen. So hopefully get back to that level that he was performing at before the Super Bowl loss, because Tom Brady is, by football standards, an old man, and the sport is going to be worse off if Tom Brady is the only attraction. So hopefully Pat Mahomes can prove that, Tom Brady, yes, greatest we've ever seen, but eventually all of the greats retire and someone needs to pick up the mantle of, all-star quarterback after. The new generation needs to continue to prosper. And I have to assume that Patrick Mahomes is a big part of that new generation based off of being the defending champion against Tom Brady in a Super Bowl. So that's my defense of Patrick Mahomes. I apologize. I don't know enough about football, Patrick, to make this a whole, big thing, but I got you.
Well, I still love your opinion on that, Ryan. And
you better. I was the only one who dissented. So
we appreciate it. Legitimate good points there throughout. And I think, this upcoming postseason, which definitely check out your coverage on that on the Productive Conversations podcast, all January and February 2021, is really going to set the tone because of those storylines that you mentioned, Ryan. Can the Chiefs redeem themselves after collapsing the Super Bowl, having an awful first half of the season? Well, not awful, but below average football first half of the season. You have Aaron Rodgers hungry to see that drama pull out with that controversial NFC Championship game. We'll see.
He can't taste anything.
Whether it's Brian's Cowboys or the Rams making a push, this is going to be really exciting. The Patriots, if Bill Belichick can bring his team back to the Super Bowl, is going to be a great postseason. And those storylines really began since the last Super Bowl. Now, the next thing here, March 11th, and this is talking about something that's really been a trending topic in the new in 2021, something that I really don't understand society's obsession with. But here's the story. A digital non-fungible token, aka the NFTs you people have heard about, an NFT artwork called Every Day's The First 5,000 Days, was created by artist Beeple, and it sold at Christie's for a world record of $69.35 million. And it was estimated at 100,000 and it was an estimate of $100. That's it. Somebody really spent $69 million on an NFT that you cannot physically touch or see. You log on and you keep that. Again, I really need to be educated in the NFT fad. I don't understand why people are spending all these monies, having the rights to essentially YouTube videos and clips. But if people are spending millions of dollars for these NFTs that are only worth $100, what is the big obsession? If you guys can help me understand this, if you are more versed in the NFT culture and NFT stuff.
Bros?
I don't, if they are, I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not. You know that, Matt.
Alex and Brian, are you NFT bros?
My brother's starting to get into it, but I think of it more as it's just another like way of people trying to find passive income, where like, you have this non-fungible token, like let's say like the artwork that's behind an image. And, I know a lot of athletes are doing that with like sports and stuff like that, like a highlight reel or something like that. Think about how many times we've seen like Michael Jordan doing the layup, starting off with his right hand, switching to his left and going under the rim. How many times have you seen that in a highlight reel? So now you take that, I don't know if I'm like saying this right, but like, like some type of digital art like that has that NFT, that blockchain background now. Every time that's played, someone's making money.
Yeah.
I'm seeing it as another way of passive income. I just don't know how it's volatile. And I just don't know like how, like,
so
you could just, you could just,
so you're
record
saying people are buying. So let's say, I hope they didn't sell the Air Jordan bit because someone's making a lot of money, but you're saying that right now, because my whole point is like, so you buy this clip of, like you say, the, we'll use the Air Jordan one, right? With the legs and the, the whole deal. But I can watch that on YouTube right now. I could just pull that up. But you're saying that is exactly the value of the NFT. That's how the person, because of the blockchain bit, that person now makes money off of that.
Yeah, that's from what I've heard. I'm trying to look it up right now, the actual definition of it, so then I don't get added or canceled on podcasts already. Not knowing NFTs.
You won't get canceled. It's okay, because I was going to say a lot of mean things. So
he'll get canceled first.
Because I don't get the NFT thing. But again, in fairness, if someone's telling me that if I had bought one, now every time somebody watches the Michael Jordan YouTube video, I'm making money. Well, now I feel like the idiot.
But, yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say NFTs are just confusing to me. It's like Bitcoin, right? I just don't, it's tough for me with these cryptocurrencies. The same thing with NFTs. I really don't understand it. I know for working for the NBA, and I find it fascinating, is Top Shot. I don't know if you guys have heard of that. That's
I've
kind of
heard
like the
that.
NFT thing where you can open up packs, you get certain clips. So, I've seen it. That is really cool because it's like you get, if you get these rare packs, you open it, you get like a monetary value because of the rarity of said clip. So it could be, like we said, that Jordan, infamous switch hand layup that we've all seen millions of times. You can get that in some super rare pack, and all of a sudden that thing is worth like 60 grand, right? Or more, because it's just in that pack that only, let's say, 25 people can get, and it gets open, and like you said, it's like a market. People just buy it, and then only those 25 people have it, and then they try to sell it, and it can go for thousands of dollars just because of the rarity of that highlight, right? So that's really me where I go with NFTs. I look at Top Shot because this is a newer kind of thing with the NBA, and I find it fascinating and how cool it is. But like the whole thing, like you said, like the art thing that I saw when you said it sold for like $69 million, and you can literally pull up that link and see what that artwork is. I was like, I didn't understand that, but with something like Top Shot, I understand, because there's rare packs that only X amount of people can get, and that's what drives the price of it because of the rarity. But just the general painting ones, I get confused on.
So as NBA then, and obviously you may not be able to answer me. So does NBA like scrub the web, the internet, to make sure that I can't find that for free?
I don't know how really
that's the
security of Top Shot works, because
that's the part I'm confused at. Right. Because I'm like, if I really want to see something, I feel like I can still find it.
Yeah.
I don't remember there being some sort of mass scrubbing of content from the internet so we can sell it. No. And that's the part, again, that's the part that I don't understand. How is it rare? Because I mean, again, not a big sports guy, but I know the clip you're talking about. I've seen it a million times, and I've never even actively sought it out. So I would, if at TTweetCat, tell me, how do you make money off an NFT, or do you not make money? It's okay if you don't. Not everything in life is about making money, but I would be very surprised if you paid, what did you say, $69 million for something that didn't make money? Like, you have to have a lot of money to spend on a YouTube link. Is it like a really fancy Patreon? Did someone come up with the best grift of all time? They're just making the videos they were always making, but they added a paywall. I don't know. But that's honestly something I haven't been able to figure out this entire time, is how you make money on an NFT. I get the concept behind like how it works and how they're sold and all that. That all makes perfect sense. I just don't know how anyone's driving any monetary value.
Well, I will make.
Why it's valid. My bad.
Oh, you're good. I was just gonna say.
I found why it's valuable.
You have it?
Yeah, I found why it's valuable. So it says it's found in its values in the technology that underpins them. So they're data units that are recorded on blockchains and can't be erased or modified once they have been inputted. This is especially crucial when purchasing items such as artwork, limited edition media, and so on. They're difficult to copy, which offers assurance for artists and stuff like that want to make sure that work doesn't get copied. And there's only a small number of limited editions for sale. So like the way I get like the feeling of it, it's just like we have the whole metaverse like happening now and everything like that. It's just another way of like it's like we have art galleries where you can only get a certain amount of prints and stuff like that, and then you hold on to that. It's switching onto the virtual world now.
Okay, so this is just an artist signature, really.
Yeah,
it's a real Picasso versus a not real Picasso.
It's like having a physical painting with a barcode on it,
Okay.
which I could be totally wrong, but this is what I'm getting.
Well, I mean, it makes sense, and it's better than what my assumption that somebody was just being lied to. So,
Well, hopefully people can figure out how to make NFTs with this show or any embarrassing dances I've been caught on people's
I mean, that
Snapchats
look, man.
for.
Look at the camera real quick.
Mhm.
That look right there.
There we
Everyone.
go.
That's an
right
NFT,
there.
probably.
Right there.
$49.95 for your money back.
Please profit off me. Just give me 10%. And I have a metaverse story coming up in the fall. Definitely want to get to. So also in March, who would have thought another thing that brought this country together? This time, it was Oprah Winfrey's highly anticipated interview with Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, with Prince Harry to talk and they met up in their home in Southern California. 30 million people watched it, and they discussed the royal life, their tensions with Harry's family, racism against Meghan. Do we care about this? 30 million people did watch. Or do you think this just like, okay, now we heard the whole story. Now we can move on. There are people who I've met in this world who specifically they have a hobby to love and enjoy the royal family in the United States of America. I was wondering, do you feel this is one of those big, highly anticipated interviews you'll always remember where you were when Oprah talked to
I don't
Meghan
remember
Markle?
Oprah talking to her.
Okay, then
I don't
maybe
remember
that
either.
sets
Yeah.
the tone.
I don't really follow the royal family, so I heard of it, but I didn't really like actively seek out the interview. I read some of the descriptions, but that was it for me.
We're not the demographic, though.
Right.
I'm more concerned with my own president right now than COVID
Right.
than the royal family.
But we're not who the royal family is for. Being, all male. None of us are British. I mean, it's fine. It was, I guess, a change of pace. It was not our country that was being absolutely panned for race relations and the way we treat people of color. So I guess that was a nice little break, but I didn't really pay attention to it. I saw what she said, like when it got covered, because I guess she did, she didn't hold any punches, I guess. But I didn't know what was happening, didn't know when it happened, only found out afterward.
I guess you say it's significant because like no one really like knows or talks about the royal family, so it's like the first outing of the royal family, like with someone from the inside. So,
oh yeah, if you're into that thing, it was spicy, right? But I just not me.
Yeah, no, same, not me.
I also think you made the most important point. We're not exactly who they're trying to sell this story to, and we'll just leave it at that. But on April 18th, another big. Really? Oh
yeah, April 19th.
Oh, I'm not gonna forget it after this. So here, April 8th. So the day before your birthday, Brian. I don't know if you remember this. Another sports story. 12 elite football clubs, aka soccer teams, agreed to make the European Super League with teams like Real Madrid and Manchester City, Man U, Liverpool, Arsenal, Barcelona. I always mess up. Juventus, the one Ronaldo was on. Juventus. They were going to create the ultimate Super League, but so much backlash around the entire world led that league to only survive 2 days. And what could have been, huh? Now, soccer fan or not, which I clearly need to be more versed in. I know how the game works, and I play FIFA, and I'm even good at it. But I need to be more.
I know
up
soccer.
to date.
I play FIFA.
Anyways, but do you feel like this could? Would you have been interested anymore in soccer if you guys are or not? I'm not sure. I know Alex likes the MLS, but do you feel like this could have made soccer more interesting in the United States, which we slowly see a rise at, but not on a level like the NFL or NBA, but people are always trying to make soccer popular in the United States of America. Do you feel like the Super League, which it was literally called the Super League, the European Super League, do you feel like it could have made soccer at least a little more appealing?
No, I don't, because of the first word in the European Super League. It's European, and a lot of Americans don't care. I mean, we just said we didn't care at all about the royal family 2.5 seconds ago. And that's, I mean, if you care about soccer, then I'm sure you had very strong opinions about the Super League. I didn't really understand why everybody got so upset, but I'm not a big fan. So maybe that's why. I assume it's because it'd be taking all the best teams of all the other leagues and essentially making them garbage. So I'm assuming it was really more the other leagues and other teams that were upset because they weren't in the Super League, because it sounds like a cool idea. It's like an all-star game, but it's an entire season. Yeah, but in terms of being more popular in America, it's still all the best teams in Europe. I don't think anybody from this side of the pond was invited to be in the Super League. So I don't think there's like anything that would have really changed over here. Obviously, it would have changed the way soccer in general was broadcast, because I'm assuming Super League would be the majority of like the TV time, and most of the ads would be going to Super League games, Super League teams, and it would change it would change soccer as a business as well as a game that people enjoy. But I don't think it would have changed anything in America specifically. But someone who knows more about maybe American soccer or European football can go ahead and take the mic.
I don't know much about soccer, but I just know that more leagues means more exposure, which means possible, more popularity. So maybe, you have a bigger, America loves big and flashy and all-star. So if you have a league with all-star stuff, we probably might go towards it. Like, if you really think about it, like, I would say, majority of people in the United States that like soccer are big on, like, the US team. So, like, that in itself is an all-star team of everyone that, from the US that plays on that team. So, and all of America, roots for them when they're playing. So if you have a team, a super league, there's a possibility that we go, oh, well, we think we're big and strong and everything like that. We love everything all-star. We go right into that and start, following more. But until there's more, a national league in America, I don't see it becoming a, mainstream, like the football or baseball.
I was super excited for it. I'm not like huge into soccer. Like Matt said, I kind of watch MLS here and there. I used to watch a bunch of Chelsea games and stuff. But I haven't really watched soccer actively. But like, this was interesting to me because, like you guys said, it pretty much was top of the leagues across multiple leagues, top teams, bunch of stars, all the heavy hitters you want to watch match up. And I thought, because with soccer, especially European soccer, it gets confusing on what tournaments matter, how many tournaments are there. Everyone's kind of watching Champions League and all that stuff when that comes around, especially in the US and stuff. But with this, I was like, oh, you have one league, bunch of super teams, and they're battling every week. Like, that would be a ton of fun. I think that would be like the key selling point of getting it to the US was it was like, you guys don't have to watch all these bunch of games, all these tournaments. You're going to have these teams. You're going to play, X amount of games, and then we'll have a tournament on who's like the, champion of the Super League. So I thought that to me would be the really big selling point for that league. And it sucked that it only lasted kind of 2 days because, FIFA was like, well, if this happens, then like all of you guys are going to get penalized and all this crazy stuff. And so that's why all these teams started back out. So I would have loved it. And I think it could have been easily sold to the US. I don't know the numbers wise, but I think that could be like, what Brian said was like, we love the all-stars and all these teams are like throwing millions of dollars across the board for these teams. And they would have all these stars and everyone can, you'll see the Messis of the world and the Ronaldos and all this stuff. And people would tune into that, but unfortunately we didn't get that. But I think you could have sold it. But again, I don't know how the numbers or if it would increase the popularity. But at least for me, I think if you were to condense it with those teams and then have some wild touring with all these star teams, it would have been fun to watch.
We will see what happens in the next 10 years. But soccer in America.
It won't be Super League, though. We know that.
Congrats to NYCFC winning the MLS Cup, though. That's like the first major New York team that a lot of people are forgetting about to win a championship. So
Exactly. Yeah, the mayor didn't even want to give him a parade, so that's why he's gone at the end of this.
Yeah, there's a new mayor. Let's petition the new mayor.
Now, you can't say 2021 without this topic, so I have to bring it up. But at the end of between the end of April and early May, though it was approved for emergency use by the FDA as early as 2021, the FDA approves emergency use of COVID vaccination to the general public who are the ages of 16, who are eligible, who are the ages of 16 and up, whether through Pfizer, Moderna, or Johnson & Johnson. This would lead to a major step in ending the pandemic, but has also led to a lot of political and social discourse on vaccinations, which obviously were affected to this day. Now, we're not going to use this segment exactly to say which side is the right side, though, won't throw any agendas out there. But who would have thought at this day and age a vaccine would, I don't even know what appropriate words to use. It would, decide the fate of civilization. I mean, obviously, would be the driving force of major topics of discussion from now until whenever. A vaccine just used to help risk the consequences of COVID-19 to the human body, though not proven to end the spread as well. This is I know as tippy-toe of a subject as you can get with COVID vaccinations and maybe a couple other things that have to be mentioned in the 2021 timeline. But the vaccine, can I just say, well, this is how we'll tackle it. When I say COVID vaccination, what's the first thing that comes to mind? I'll start with Ryan there. We'll start with Alex with that.
I was gonna say, like, when I heard about it, I felt like hope. I felt positive, or positivity, I guess. That's the word that first come to mind when I heard that it was getting released to the public.
Excellent. What would you say, Ryan?
Get your notebooks out. We got an agenda coming. Everyone's got to be vaccinated if you can be. Not everyone can be. That's what I felt. As soon as I heard, I was like, it's go time. There's no excuses. Well, there are excuses, and your doctor will tell you about those excuses, and you should listen to your doctor. But if your doctor doesn't give you an excuse, if Joe Rogan gives you an excuse, or, someone of that ilk, don't listen to that excuse. That excuse is probably wrong. So go to your doctor, get their excuse. And if you don't have one, get the vaccine. That's my agenda. Just pass it around. There'll be a test after syllabus week.
What you guys say, Brian?
Well, for me, I'm fully vaccinated. My entire family is fully vaccinated. And I would say the one thing that I think that I was upset with when the vaccines came out was the politics of it. And one word I would say, when you make medicine politics, I think that automatically deters people away from the actual reason for the medicine, and that was to keep people alive, to keep people from getting sick and get people dying. So when we have politics, when it becomes a political agenda or, a division, it was just seeing divide again. And after, we had the inauguration, we started coming back together, boom, we get slapped with this. And immediately two sides split, one splits to two, and then we have this debate. And, it was upsetting to see and stuff like that. And, the way I think about it is this: when you're babies, everyone, I don't know how, did any of you guys go to public school from, elementary school? Okay. Our parents were fine, getting us all those vaccines when we were kids, just so we could have, free school. And then we turned, now we're in our 20s and stuff like that, they're older and stuff like that. Then you had this whole debate, I don't know what I want to put in my body. But 20 years ago, we were just putting in a bunch of vaccines just to go to school for free. No, we really, and the way my always debate was, I can't guarantee that I'm going to live to see the long-term side effects of something. I can only worry about the short term. And if that got me to go back to school to graduate college, I had to take it. You know what I mean?
Tell you what, if you don't get vaccinated, you don't have to worry about the long term so much, do you? You won't see the short term either.
You'll be 6 feet under.
Yeah.
Especially the older folks, I must say, which is why it's so funny that is where most of the most of the trepidation is. People who really, really need to probably buckle down are the ones who are like, I don't know if I want to. And well, again, talk to a
I
doctor.
think it's about an even, you have to have an even keeled conversation and just educate. That's the key. There shouldn't be no he said this, she said that, like aggravation kind of tone. Just has to be, informational. And I feel like once politics got involved, the information stopped and was more of a demand.
Yeah, pretty
That's
much.
when people
Very true.
immediately people shut off when you tell them what to do.
Now we'll see how as we enter in a new year. It'd be interesting when we do this in 2022, how far we've come. And I hope it is a much better and healthier world in that case. So to switch it up, in May 27th, 2021, HBO Max turned a year old. And what did they do to honor their 1-year anniversary? They brought back the cast of Friends, the reunion, a special reuniting the main cast of the NBC hit sitcom where you got Jennifer Aniston and Courtney Cox and Matt LeBlanc and Matthew Perry and David Schwimmer and Lisa Kudrow coming together, being moderated by James Corden of all people. And it brought back people where people thought, who would have thought the cast of Friends coming together for one day in the spring to make people a little more happy who actually cared. But Friends, obviously a major cultural phenomenon. Great show, legendary show. Did you guys happen to tune in to this epic TV moment?
Yeah.
I didn't, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely.
Any reason why, Alex?
I wasn't really huge into Friends. I understand the importance of the show, and I know a bunch of people who grew up watching the show. My sisters were really big into Friends. I just never got into it. But like when I heard the special was happening, I was thinking of tuning in, but I ended up not tuning in. But I just saw that when it was coming out, I was like, oh, like a lot of people are going to watch this because it's crazy to think that 20 years already passed. It's like the same thing with the Harry Potter reunion is going to happen soon. Is that 20 years have passed since that, which a lot of us grew up with that. So it was really cool to me that they were able to get everyone together and do kind of this, one-off show. And I know people who loved Friends growing up were very excited for it to happen. But for me, I just passed on this one.
What you think about it, Ryan and Brian? Were you happy? Were you sad?
Yeah.
Were you mad?
Yeah, it left me with a lot of thoughts. Number one, probably most pressing, was why does everyone hate James Corden? I don't get it. I mean, he's not my favorite or anything like that, but I don't think he's bad. And then number two is 2021, and I guess 2020 is when it really started. Really just pandemic era. Just because like the years of low-hanging fruit where they're just like, let's just redo all of the famous shows. We can't do any new ones. So let's just do the old ones again. Like, because think about the number of, you just mentioned Harry Potter, Fresh Prince was around this time.
West Wing.
Yeah, West Wing did their thing for the election. Gilmore Girls did one on Netflix.
Sex and the City.
Parks and Rec did a one-off pandemic special, yeah.
Well, Parks and Rec was almost made sense because it was a one-off pandemic special, sold as such. But the rest were not. The rest were just like, we have a reunion. And it was during the pandemic, but it was just a reunion. And this is really weird that we got into this kind of phase of bringing all the old stuff back. It's almost like everybody collectively agreed that nothing was the same anymore and everything was going to be different forever now. And we just wanted a couple of like goodbyes to the old world before we moved into whatever's going to happen next in 2020. I guess we'll say 2022 for the sake of this episode. But yeah, those are what I really thought about when I was watching the Friends thing. It was fine. Don't know why we hate James Corden. Don't know why we keep bringing all these shows back. But that's all I have for Friends reunion. It wasn't a real show. It was just kind of them talking, it's fine.
Well, no one told you life would be this way, though.
No, they did. They said it every Wednesday night on NBC several times. We know we're broke and, that job's a joke, that whole thing. Became pretty accurate during the pandemic, actually.
How'd you feel, Brian?
So Friends is my favorite show ever.
Really?
You know what it was? It was the first show I ever watched with my mom and dad. I'm born in
Nice.
'99, so like it was. I think that was like the middle of the season. I think it came out a couple of years earlier, and then like went to it. So it's like I was born in that time, so I always wanted to be like, oh, I wonder like before I was born, like when I was like a baby, like how like life would have been like, especially when I was starting to go into college. I'm like, oh, I wonder like what my age group going in out of college would have been like, and like compare that. I'm like, let me compare it to like now and stuff like that. So that was cool. I always loved the cast and stuff like that. I'm disappointed that they haven't. There's such a fan base that they wouldn't retry to restart it up. Not even with the same characters, maybe just like with their kids. Like we know
Like
Chandler
Fuller
and
House.
Monica. Yeah, like Chandler. Like listen, it would probably be bad, but they would make so much money on it. Like I just don't like like the amount of money you would make on it. It would be terrible, but the amount of money, cameo pieces every once in a while, it would be phenomenal.
That's one heck of a pitch there, Brian. It's gonna be
Literally.
bad, but think of the money.
That's what most shows are about, though. It's about cash.
Oh,
It's like how I Met Your Father gets gonna be coming out soon.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's how much
Wait,
money,
really?
much money. Yeah, they're doing How Much Father with Hilary Duff.
Yeah, they released the picture.
Yeah, the trailer. The trailer doesn't look great, but they were like, "There's a bunch of How Much Mother fans think about the money we're gonna get from that."
That's it. Listen, no, I don't care who you are, right? Like my childhood, right? If you put a Toy Story out or a Transformer movie and change up every actor, we're gonna go see it. That's how it is. I was upset when Tobey Maguire wasn't. Andrew Garfield took over Tobey Maguire, but I still went to go see Amazing Spider-Man. And then when Tom Holland did, I went to go see that too. It's just what you do.
I was just about to say, think of all the Spider-Men.
Really? And then they decided, hey, let's make more money. Let's put us all together, even though we're all bad actors.
Well, that would be pretty good if they did that with Friends. They just rebooted it a bunch of times, and then they had a Friends crossover.
I like the
all
idea
the different
of
Chandlers
in the Friendsverse.
In the Friendsverse,
Friends multiverse of madness, but it's
just
like,
change the city.
I could
New
see
York,
a 2020
Chicago.
I could see a 2020 Friends version with all their kids, and they're in like San Francisco, straight out of college, all vegetarians, like just enjoying life, like a very like modern 2020s kind of vibe. And then they would just go crossover back and forth.
The problem is all of their kids would want to cancel them on Twitter for the things they said on their show.
Imagine we're on a break. Imagine how that would go on Twitter.
But I definitely wish they had done a real episode.
Yeah, I like that reunion better, like a scripted episode, like what Curb was making fun of with Seinfeld. I like that idea better, but they don't want to listen to me, and I will make sure they do someday.
Print that money.
As long as it makes you money.
On
July 19th, Blue Origin successfully conduct the first human test flight with reusable New Shepard rocket delivering 4 crew members into space. And who were those crew members? Jeff Bezos, Bezos's brother Mark, this dude named Oliver, who was 18, the youngest person in space so far, and then 82-year-old Mercury 13 member Wally Funk. So Jeff Bezos went to space, and this, ties into the space wars of the billionaires from Richard Branson and, like I said, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Michael Strahan went to space for some reason, and so
who paid for that one though?
William Shatner did. I don't know. They did. But anyways, celebs are going to space now. This is the world we live in today. How about Jeff Bezos going to space? Is that just the ultimate fuck you money moment of 2021? Or any of these people going there?
All I know is if he could bring a rocket to space and bring it back, he better, make promise of a 1 day or 2 day ship in about 30 minutes. That's all I'm saying. Let's speed this up. But yeah, no, it's definitely some, I have money and I could waste it. It was probably a tax write-off for the betterment of mankind. So he didn't have to, definitely, I'll build a rocket. You just, shave off that percentage for me and we're good. But, it opens up, the renewing of the space race and stuff like that. Maybe we'll go to the Mars one day, have a colony or two, but we'll see what happens. But, it happened, right? It's an interesting thing that happened that, was in my mind for 30 minutes. And I went back to work in the day.
Yo, Jeff Bezos with a space. Next meme.
He wore a cowboy hat. I'm like, look, he's trying his best.
The same year when Leo almost took his woman. What a year for Jeff Bezos.
For Bezos, I think that is definitely the biggest FU money moment of the year. But it also was cool, I guess, in a way that, down the line, it probably cost all of us more money than we probably have. But the possibility of being able to, for the regular person to go into space, even if it's like for 10 minutes like they are in, that was the only thing. But again, it is a lot of money. And I find it funny, we talk about Strahan going to space. He did his jersey retirement, I think, the Sunday before, and then a day or two later, he was flying into space. So great week for Michael Strahan before he did that. And it was cool that I guess he is the only, I could be wrong here, but only NFL star Hall of Famer to be in space.
So far.
So far. But yeah,
That's
I think it's kind of going to be going forward. I think it's slowing down a little bit, but I think it's going to be interesting to see what celebrities are next now. Because we had, like we said, William Shatner, Bezos, and then, Strahan and all that stuff. So it'd be interesting to see who's going to be next on the docket to go into space going forward.
Keep your eyes peeled for the next. I'll go for it.
Couldn't get him a Giants W though that weekend.
No, they couldn't. That was
Nobody can.
Yeah,
that was against
space.
the Eagles. That was against the Eagles. So we did get a win because Jalen Hurts. That was there. He threw like 4 picks or 3 picks. So
look at that!
it was
a
rare win for the Giants on that weekend.
It was.
Eli's they botched. Eli's we lost the Falcons. Yeah, but they did get a win that weekend.
Eli's the next one in space. That's what I'm calling. I mean, I know you said that the idea of going to space is appealing. I'm on the home team. I'm on the solid ground. I don't necessarily ever need to go to space. I'd be scared of the rocket. But so there's that. I will say, however, and I'm jumping ahead, and it's fine, Matt. Space related, today we just got confirmation about the Webb's telescope. Don't know if you were going to bring this up or not in your retrospection, but now you don't have to because I'm doing it. Far more important than the fact that Elon Musk can crash 16 rockets and then do 20 minutes in the outer atmosphere. That's all Bezos did too, by the way. The only thing that made it interesting was that he brought William Shatner, who probably shouldn't have been in space, and I guess you said some kid named Oliver. So shout out to that kid named Oliver. But yeah, this telescope is going to be like the way outer atmosphere or outer reaches, and that's when it's going to turn on. And we're going to get a live feed from that telescope to NASA once it gets fully operational. And a fun side story, NASA, in addition to this telescope, has hired 24 religious leaders, hired them, not consulted them, not talked to them, hired them to meet at Princeton University here in New Jersey and discuss what would happen if NASA brought forward evidence from a telescope, not naming which one, that alien life was real. They actually brought forth religious leaders that, how are we going to talk to people about this if it happens? And NASA wouldn't be spending that kind of money unless they had some serious questions about what this telescope might find once it finally opens up. So that's the only space news I think is interesting. I'm not a big alien person. I'm not. But the fact that NASA felt the need to assemble the Jesus team to talk about how they're going to sell that to people has me thinking that they have a pretty good idea that it's a non-zero chance that there's something up there and they're about to find it as soon as the telescope finishes charging or whatever the heck it's got going on right now. And so at that point, everything Jeff Bezos has done will look literally like paper airplanes. So
they got a big old telescope. How big is it?
I mean, I think the solar panels are like the size of a tennis court, folded up. The solar panel, they had to fold it, and that's what just opened. So now it's charging before it can get finally ready to go in the subspace where it's freezing cold or whatever. So there's a lot to it. I've only seen 2 things on it, but today I saw my 3rd thing on it, and it was about these religious leaders being hired. So I'm just saying we need to that's the space story to keep your eye out in 2022. The 2021 was just a silly little distraction.
Boy, it's like real life Armageddon or something.
Oh we didn't. Who said that? I didn't say it was bad. I just said it.
Real life Independence Day
Okay.
happened.
Got to get Jeff Goldblum on that religious stuff.
He might have been one of the leaders. We don't know.
Honestly, yeah, probably has his own.
He's on the scouting team. Yeah,
he has his own religion.
Yeah, I was gonna say he probably does.
The next day after that was the day that the Milwaukee Bucks defeated the Phoenix Suns in Game 6 of the 2021 NBA Finals. Giannis scored 50 points in that game. He said, "This is for my mom." And the Bucks are now they are now reigning NBA champions after a NBA postseason with so many injuries. That's my one question. And the big $1 million question regarding this day is, did the Bucks truly win an NBA Finals, or was it a big fluke because of all the injuries that took place on their road to winning an NBA championship? Do you think it's a real championship or a phony one?
I'm gonna get myself out of the way quickly. Bow out fast. Obviously, it's a real championship. They won. And also, I don't like this whole calling out your mom thing. Only one person's mom is the real MVP. We know who that is. But other than that, obviously they won the championship. You play the game in front of you. You play with the players that are in front of you. You play the team that you're told to play. Everybody has the same rules, and they won. I mean, you could go back and forth a million times, and I'm sure if you're from Phoenix, you do, about what could have happened or what should have happened. But it doesn't matter because it didn't happen. You can only live in the real world where reality is set. And so they won the game that they had to win, and they won the championship. And I think it's disrespectful to the whole team and Kevin Durant's mom to try and take that away from them.
It's the most important championship of the decade, I would say, of the 2010s. And if if you say, from 2011 to 2021, like that decade, that's those 10-year gap, I would say it's the most important one because, it's like when Luke Skywalker, finally, blew up the Death Star twice again. It brought balance to the Force. You know what I mean? Super teams. We don't
balance
need
to the NBA.
We don't need super teams. We could have homegrown talent win. You know what I mean? And we saw that, the Nets fell because of injuries, but I also think they had no chemistry whatsoever because, you don't have that when you built. If you remember the OKC team before they broke everything up, that was homegrown talent and they all played together because they had pride in where they were from. You know what I mean? Same thing with Milwaukee. That was slowly built. Like I remember when Giannis was averaging under 10 points with Ersan Ilyasova starting over him. If you remember Ersan Ilyasova, you know what I mean? Like guys like that. Monty Ellis was on the team. Like OJ Mayo. Like they had all these people. Like you had don't even know. People don't even know who existed then. You know now.
They're getting 10-day contracts now.
Yeah, again, 10-day contracts. Everyone has COVID, but like they built that team up and it brought balance again. If you look at the free agency. A lot of teams got balanced out of nowhere. The Knicks are balanced. Like the Knicks have some talent. Atlanta has some. There's no real true super teams anymore. Like Boston slowly regressed. Like everything balanced out again.
I totally agree. I know I work for the NBA, obviously. Just watching that finals was awesome as pure basketball fan. Two small market teams, a lot of history going at it. A lot of people forget Giannis messed up his knee pretty bad right before that finals.
Yeah.
The fact that he came back 10 days later and then dropped 50 in Game 6 is one of the best finals performances in a closeout game we might have ever seen. It just proves, how great of a team that is. So it's a legitimate championship. The players are playing, and the Phoenix Suns were healthy. The Bucks were pretty healthy at that time too. It was just an all-time great performance from Giannis from there, being down 2-0. Everyone thought they were going to get swept. Everyone thought it was the Suns championship, the battle back. And, like we said, to bring balance back, Giannis could have legitimately left that offseason and go with the Warriors. Like a lot of people, the reports, he's going to Golden State if he leaves Milwaukee. He signed a Supermax contract because he wanted to stick it out and prove to the NBA and prove to all of us NBA fans that a small market team could stick it out and win a championship. And like Brian said, it brought balance to the NBA because now players are like, well, I don't have to go team up with LeBron or I don't have to team up with anyone. I can be in my respective market And as long as they build a team around me that's going to be successful, like the Bucks did over time, getting a guy like Chris Middleton, getting Drew Holiday, getting Brook Lopez, players like that, you could legitimately win a championship now. You don't need to team up and have an all-star team like the Nats or whatever, because you could still win a championship without, joining forces with any other superstar. So definitely a very important title. Definitely was fun to watch, great series to watch. And like you said, it's a legitimate title for Milwaukee, and Giannis put on one of the best finals performances we've ever seen.
Yeah, I do think history will look fondly at this NBA COVID-stricken season, in the sense that obviously not fondly for why it was so difficult to pull off, but finally how it ended. These teams that now have put a name for themselves in that postseason all together, whether you're like the Grizzlies, what you thought were the Knicks, even though I'm really nervous about them right now. The Warriors, they made a little bit of a push in that playing game, and now they're back on being in the top of the West. Hundreds of stories I can talk about here, but I think that was something I really didn't think about, Brian, and you really made it a good point on how that's really changed the trajectory of the NBA, and we'll see how that plays itself out, especially with that rule with the college incentives that was passed. It's not mentioned in the story, but it did pass this year that college players can make money off their name and likeness. Basically, that can inspire people to stay in college more, that will develop better rookies. You won't have 19, 20, 18, 19, 20-year-olds playing in the league anymore. You might have more well-established players, and we'll see where it goes from there, especially after the NBA gets through all this COVID obstacles right now. But a few days later, the Olympics kicked off. It was from July 23rd to August 8th, the 2020 Olympics, technically. And for me, for many reasons, from COVID-19 concerns to political discourse to, so many things going on in a summer that was semi-normal, this was really quiet Olympics. Even though the U.S. did have, they topped the medal count, top golds. They more than China and Japan. This took place in Tokyo. Also had the Simone Biles controversy, her deciding to step down in the gymnastics final, and all that stuff. It was like, do you think you'll remember these Olympics in any way, shape, or form? Do you feel like, I don't know if people realize there is supposed to be another Olympic season happening in just around a month and a half, the Beijing Olympics. But again, COVID concerns, more political issues. United States said they're making a diplomatic strike, I believe is the correct term. No diplomats are going to the Olympics. Like, what's going on with the games, guys? Is this going to be a trend that the Olympics are just not as interesting as what they used to be? We're now losing professional athletes. They might not go. Like, I know the NHL isn't bringing their players into the winter leagues. Not as many big stars sign up for the basketball team for the Summer Olympics. Do you think in time that the Olympics will just be another thing, even though this time where, the world comes together for a little piece to play some games, but maybe the popularity just be a thing of the past? Maybe I'm just bugging too, but what do you guys think of the Olympics on how the popularity has swayed?
So I've been pretty lighthearted, even in the serious conversations, I think. But I won't be lighthearted here. I'm going to answer your first question only. You asked, is there anything you'll remember from this particular Olympics? Because it was quiet. And the answer is yes. This was probably, we've talked a lot about division. If you had to pick a single word for 2021, division would be probably pretty high up on your top 10s list for the word to pick. The Olympics were an opportunity for at least this country. I can't speak for other countries as well, to maybe be a little bit less divided, a little bit more united around something that was seemingly apolitical, should have been non-controversial. You root for the home team. It's pretty simple. They're the ones wearing your flag. And we saw just the Simone Biles bit specifically was what stands out with the way that the internet fractured over what Simone Biles did, and why, more importantly, she did what she did. And I think it just proved to me that there is not a magic bullet of an event that exists anymore. There used to be, and they sometimes it was an Olympics, sometimes it was something tragic. I won't get into examples about that. I don't think there is such a thing anymore. There's no instant fix for the way that we have siloed ourselves off as a people. And so to answer your second question, which I said I wasn't going to answer, the Olympics it is going to become just another thing, because the tribal instincts, at least in this country, will never come second to, the Olympics. There will always be lines. There will always be tension and apprehension amongst people, at least for the foreseeable future. So for the foreseeable future, the American Olympic participation is not going to be all that interesting, because there's just way too much going on. And again, we can't even get on board with our own team and who should be doing what on our own team. We certainly can't, as a country, come together and cheer on, our fellow countrymen. So that is sad. Sorry to be Killjoy. Alex, you got to tell a joke or something now. I don't know. But that's just a fact, in my opinion. And I could be wrong. I've been wrong many times. It's different with sports than it is with, politics and things like that. Sports, you can check stats. There's no stats for how angry people are at each other. But just, reading the tea leaves, as it were, I think that the Olympics have lost importance because we've lost cohesion. Or more importantly, we've lost the ability to come back to a position that looks like cohesion. We're too far away now. There's no Band-Aid that can hide that, even for just a couple of weeks.
I agree with Ryan completely. Like, I feel like 30 years ago, there was a different form of Olympic patriotism in America, where everyone got together, had for Summer Olympics, had a barbecue, no matter who you were, talked about it. It was always the talk and everything like that. It's now become like a side note. Oh, the Olympics are on. I'm going to go make dinner and listen to it in the background. Like, there's no, people would just come and actually have parties and watch the Olympics and cheer for your country. And because of that lack of cohesion and division, it's like, why are we cheering for this country when, my perspective doesn't get voiced anymore, and vice versa? So it's like, why am I rooting for this? I also think that technology has, for that, the second question, technology has led to the downfall of Olympics in America because of the athletes actually involved in it. I'm just going to talk about the major American sports like baseball and basketball. You had the Dream Team, which had the best players in the NBA on those teams. And a major reason for that was technology. It was very hard for exposure back then to have to be exposed globally because of the lack of technology. You know what I mean? In the early Dream Team, internet's a new thing. Now you don't need to go play for the Olympics to be known around the world. LeBron James doesn't need to play the Olympics to sell his brand in other countries when he has the internet and the advertisements. So you don't have that need anymore. Like this year on the baseball team, the most known player was Todd Frazier, right? I think.
Yeah, who's retired?
Could you imagine in retired? Could you imagine that? Now, really, the Olympics now for those two sports are for college kids to, step for, middle of the pack NBA players to show the NBA that they might be worth a good contract, and it's for baseball teams for college kids to be able to get their scouting ratings up. It's become almost like another practice. And I think because of that and technology, the trend for the Olympics in America will continue to go down. For summer specifically. Winter's a totally different world.
Yeah, we can see how that gets measured in a couple of weeks. You have anything to say, Alex?
No, I agree with both Ryan and Brian. It's, to me, I used to get excited for the Olympics, but these last two, I guess, over the last 8 years, I've really barely watched it, and especially including basketball. I mean, growing up, we did have, the second coming of a dream team, if you will, with the D Wades and LeBron and Kobe and Melo and everyone being all together. And that was so fun to watch. And then this year it was fun, but again, it was, a lot of players backed out because they didn't really get to sell the brand, COVID concerns, things like that. So the people that got replaced were, like Brian said, middle of the pack NBA players, really good role players showing they could do it. And there was a few stars, Bradley Beal, a couple other guys. But then again, there was COVID concerns that happened while they were over there. So, to me, it was like I wasn't tuning into every USAB basketball game when I growing up, I was, because I wanted to see LeBron and Kobe and D Wade go destroy, Spain, or have a battle against Spain or France or whoever, all the good matchups. And then this year, there were some fun games, but I wasn't into the Olympics as much as I was. And I feel like that's going to be really going forward. It's like, maybe we'll get a really good squad for the USAB, but it's at the same time, I really don't watch for basketball, but for the whole Olympics in general, I'm like, I'll see the, opening stuff. Maybe it's on TV here and there. I'll watch some things, but I'm not glued to the screen like I used to be growing up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I hope maybe one day we'll have like a Miracle on Ice team again in the near future. So as I said, we're a little bit over time, so we're just gonna wrap this up in two ways. So the rest of these stories, and then we're gonna end it off on some good ones, and we should be good at about 10 minutes if that's okay. There you are for that. So pretty much, these stories are, for lack of a better word, pretty depressing, but it has been shaping, where things are going to go in the future. On August 9th, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres literally said a code red for humanity, concluding on humanity facing major climate control issues, where he said it was as far as calling them catastrophic unless the emissions of heat trapping gases is slashed. So, hope that doesn't happen. We had the fall of Kabul in August 15th. After the Taliban captured Kabul, the Afghan government surrendered to the Taliban and the president fled the country. That sucks. Then the end of the war of Afghanistan did officially commence on August 30th, ending 20 years of operations in Afghanistan. Good in the sense that we got soldiers home. We bad, again, we just ripping apart our tensions. I mean, geez, between that and then you had, whether the apartment buildings in the spring in Miami collapsing, you have the supply chains falters issues taking place. I don't have a bed until mid-January because of supply chain issues. I mean, seriously, guys, instead of just being depressed one by one, I figure we can get the rest of the sad stories out of the way right now. But guys, listen, if you ask me, I'm a optimistic, glass half full person, but I understand when you read these stories and the stories we've read throughout the year, we really live in a very tough time in our country's history and our world. And I don't know, I can't really compare it to other times that I personally wasn't born in, but from what I've read, geez, it's just tough. You have from massacres and school shootings. I mean, it's tough to wake up in this country sometimes, but if there's any reflection and then silver linings, I would love to hear what you guys feeling, just living through these huge historical events that do have negative implications, but maybe, like I said, we can rebuild from it or something. But I know it's a lot to take in. How do you feel about some of the stories and all the things I just mentioned and then some?
So again, everything you just said, just that would have been like a week's worth of talking on a podcast. It's what makes these things hard. Obviously, there's a lot of nuance to each and every one of those stories. A lot of context that we can't possibly fill in right now. But I think ultimately everyone feels like they're living in the most important time. And that's because every moment is the most important moment. The present is always more important than the past. Past is important, of course, but it's already happened. That's baked in. That's part of the equation. You can't fix the past. You can't change the past. It's already happened. The present is what's actually happening now. So I think, not to get into too much, depth because we are running out of time, I think that this is probably how just about everybody has felt. Podcasting and even just honestly year-end retrospective lists and things have never been more popular than they are right now. thanks to YouTube, thanks to all the various different, services with a very low entry to barrier, which is great. And so we talk about them more, and maybe that's why they weigh heavier on our minds as, our generation, as opposed to previous generations who just didn't, sit around and talk about them like this. But everyone believes that they're living in the most important time, and that's because it's true. At the time that we're talking, right now it's the most important time in American history. Tomorrow will be more important than today, and that's how it's supposed to go. And so the silver lining that you're looking for is that, well, 2021 and all of the todays that it composes, they did suck. Based only off the list of things you just said, they sucked pretty bad. But it's linear. 2022, which is end of this week, is brand new. They're new tomorrows, new todays that we can't possibly predict what's going to happen. So there's a lot of things to worry about. It's definitely not saying don't worry, but as long as we're here, as long as we are thinking about tomorrow, we can always change it. We can always do better tomorrow than we did today. That's the other side of that coin about the past. So I would say that's the silver lining, is that as long as we keep talking about it, as long as we don't forget about it, there's definitely the opportunity for change, definitely the opportunity for improvement, whatever that ends up looking like. So I would say that's probably the only silver lining I can think of, without being wildly inappropriate, probably. So I'm going to leave it there.
I think we could probably sum up 2021 as America and the world for a very long time decided to not actually take care of its problems and not look itself in the mirror and have a talk with itself. Instead, bury it, and then eventually it just exploded. And this has been a trend over, I would say, 2019, 2020, 2021. We're trying to be accountable for a lot of things we've messed up over the last decade or two, and now everything's coming to fruition, and everything is because media and technology now, it's everywhere. Compared to 100 years ago, we could have been doing this right now, but no one would be hearing a lot about it. Be brushed under the rug. A lot of fixing stuff up in the shadows. Now it's all front page news. Jordan Belfort said, "Don't judge me by my winners, judge me by my losers, because I have so few." We took a lot of L's in 2021. You know what I mean? And that should be, we have to judge. We have to judge ourselves. You know what I mean? Let's have some accountability and see how we can fix this up. And like actual accountability, not name calling and yelling and disagreements. Actual, hey, this is a problem. Let's have a conversation, an educated conversation, because we're an educated society, civilization, right? Let's talk. Let's actually get the ball rolling and actually try to figure stuff out, instead of just going, "Oh, you're not in my political party, therefore I cannot talk to you because you automatically disagree with me," or, "Oh, we come from a different culture, you're never going to understand. Help me understand." Then, if that's the case, there has to be more, instead of shutting it off right at the surface of the question or the problem. Let's actually dive to the root and try to figure it out.
Help me help you.
Yes, that should be the model of 2022.
I couldn't agree more with both Ryan and Brian. You say these last three stories, and there's a lot that we could dive in that we don't have time for. But just the silver lining from all this is exactly what they said. We got to have more conversations. We have to be more together. We need to be more open and honest and learn from our past mistakes. You talk about those last three events. There's giant mistakes in every single one of those, including the unfortunate collapse in Miami, that we have to learn from. And it's hard for a lot of people to talk about that, but we do need to talk about that. And like you said, it seems like every day we're waking up and it's another story from X amount of years coming to fruition now, and then it's like everyone's fighting and all this stuff, and we just need to just look ourselves in the mirror and start figuring out how we can fix things and be more positive going forward, right? Because right now we're all divided, we're all yelling, but Ryan and Brian said, we have to take a look ourselves in the mirror and, like they said, help me help you. How can we figure out a way to solve these issues and become better people going forward?
And I think with people like us, we can pull it over. We can pull it off. We can overcome these issues, and let's keep talking about it and figure out where we messed up. And we're only going up from here. So appropriately, let's just name off some of the other W's from the rest of the year that I haven't mentioned yet. Like on July 24th, it became Instagram official. Bennifer is back. So happy to them.
You just compare the collapse of Afghanistan and Bennifer one more time, in case someone didn't hear.
Small wins.
Small wins, right?
Small wins.
I don't know if we could call that.
Small
I don't know if that might be too much. We may have all just been canceled.
That technically could be a loss.
Bennifer is a small win. The other stuff is all big L.
Yeah, no, what I meant, just to talk about overcoming
At
things.
least we have Bennifer. That should be in the State of the Union. I'm all in.
Also, who can forget when Bishop Sycamore defeated IMG 58-0, and they completely duped ESPN into believing they were a real school? That shows that anything's possible in America.
Or a real school if you say it enough times out loud.
Yeah.
Or when audiences returned to Broadway amongst the 18 months away from the pandemic. Or you have Roman Reigns defeating Daniel Bryan and Edge in the main event of WrestleMania, solidifying he is the tribal chief.
For sure, we're canceled. Sure.
Or what about Ted Lasso sweeping at the Emmys, creating Apple TV Plus as a legit platform, and shows that maybe soccer is cool in America as long as you're making fun of it as a TV show. And then you have the metaverse coming. I mean, well, that'll be for another day, but it is a thing to worth note. Adele came back with her 5th album, 30, going #1 across. Then you have the Beatles Get Back, being an innovative doc. You had It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia officially becoming the longest running sitcom in terms of seasons. I mean, what crazy stuff from here. Then you had, spoiler alert. Wait, I should have asked this before. I'm not going to say, but, spoiler alert, never give spoiler alerts out, because I should have checked in on this movie and I didn't yet. But like I said,
you mean Spider-Man, I assume?
Yeah, who was talked about it. May I ask, did the three of you see Spider-Man?
Yeah.
Far From Home?
Saw it opening night.
Okay, so spoiler alert again. We had one of the most important moments in the history of cinema when you had the 3 living Spider-Mans in Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland coming together. Mentioned earlier in the show, but that really became a $1 billion movie for the movie theaters. That shows that people will come risk COVID to see a movie worth seeing.
As long as it's Marvel.
But seriously, a lot of stuff. I mean, there's just so much I could go to. And then, I mean, of course, when Judge Penny terminated the conservatorship, which gave freedom to Britney Spears, which shows that the internet can do something good if people come together and
they
put a hashtag.
Choose not to.
I mean, is there anything I'm missing? Any other big wins you guys happy about from
you talked wrestling. You talked wrestling, and you forgot a big one. Just gotta say, August 20th, 2021, CM Punk made his return to wrestling for AEW.
How could I forget that?
And then Bryan Danielson, aka Daniel Bryan, showed up in AEW a few weeks later. But that was a big wrestling / sports event, 7-year hiatus.
CM Punk fears Hook. That's all I'm gonna say on that.
Fucking awesome. But that was a big sporting event, and I was like, you talk wrestling. I was like, is he gonna bring up CM Punk? But
you're right.
I got you, Matt.
That really did complete 2021. The return of CM Punk.
We gotta do a wrestling podcast just for 2021.
We definitely do.
It really was quite a year.
Yeah.
Oh man. And this will be the last story we talk about in 2021. Now, this really genuinely is a controversial last story to talk about, but I'm going to say it anyways. On December 18th, just 9 days prior to this podcast, Jake Paul knocked out Tyrone Woodley in the 6th round of their epic main event battle, where now Jake Paul is 5-0. And I mean, I have to put it out there, guys. Is Jake Paul a legit boxer now?
Yes.
Fight an actual boxer.
Yeah.
Oh.
Thank you, Brian. I was gonna say, can we have him fight a legitimate boxer that's around his age, that is awesome, like decent or good, and let's see how he faces off against him, because you can knock out the Nate Robinsons, you can knock out a retired UFC fighter.
Hold on, though. Tyron Woodley is not.
But I'm saying Tyron Woodley, yes, like he's a retired UFC fighter, but
there isn't a world in which Tyron Woodley should lose to Jake Paul. I'm not disagreeing with you, but we watched it.
I was surprised that Jake Paul knocked him out. I will say that.
He's a real fighter. And it is scary to say. It's scary to say, and we all have to I have to take deep breaths before I say it sometimes still.
I mean, he's impressed me. I gotta say, he has
beat up a real
he did beat up a former UFC fighter, but
Nate Robinson, which was hysterical.
Which was
I could beat up Nate Robinson.
I think most people can. But I think the thing to me with that fight, when Tyron Woodley went UFC mode and like tried to like body slam Jake Paul, I was like, all right, I just need to see him go up against a legitimate boxer now, not a guy that is like, I was in the octagon and I'm going to come out here and I'm going to try to fight you, and then I'm going to revert back to my old ways. I want to see him to go against a guy who's trained professionally in boxing.
I would just
that's what I want to see next.
And granted, I didn't talk to either Brian or Alex. I maybe didn't even talk to Matt about it. When boxing had another big crossover a while back with a mixed martial artist, although in that particular situation, it was McGregor and Mayweather. I heard a lot of positive, he lost, by the way, McGregor did, heard a lot of positive conversations about Conor McGregor's performance. And he did go a little UFC toward the end of that one as well. And nobody was like, well, I would love to see him get, not a retired boxer. Let's see him fight someone his own. So everyone said, you know what? He went in there. He probably shouldn't have done as good as he did, but he put on a decent showing because he's a decent fighter. That was basically the takeaway most people got from McGregor Mayweather. I think we have to at least give that basic sentiment to after watching that fight. At the bare minimum, he's a decent fighter. Now, I heard some silly thing where he wants to step into the octagon. I would, if I was his manager, I would be like, no, I don't know how you've done this. You've won 5 boxing matches.
Yeah, which is surprising.
Just keep winning those. Yeah. Don't do anything else.
Didn't he challenge Diaz and
I think so.
Khabib?
Yeah. And I'm like,
I'm McGregor. He's challenging everyone.
He's challenging everyone, yeah.
But now he's saying he's gonna,
like,
but now he's going to do it in like the cage.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. No,
because the rules are different.
Yeah.
The rule you can't protect. The rules won't save you. There aren't very many of them in UFC. You're allowed to do quite a bit to the person that you're.
I was just going to target Paul's legs. That's
right.
What happened. Yeah.
So I would avoid that. But other than that, I say he's a real boxer. I mean, listen, he's not like S tier boxer or anything like that. I'm not sitting here saying he's going to save the sport or something ridiculous like that. But I think at this point, he's won 5 high-profile fights against mixed company, but 5 high-profile fights nonetheless. And hasn't really looked bad in any of them. Like I said, obviously, Nate Robinson, it didn't matter. But, Tyron Woodley is not someone that you can just, punch around. You have to be at least a little good to win a fight against a fighter. Even if the rules are there, then maybe the rules benefit you more so than him because he doesn't know them, and you have 4 boxing matches, I guess. Again, my thing is neither one of them is necessarily probably proficient at the rules of boxing. That's his 5th win. So it's not like he's, been doing this for like 6 decades and he found some, UFC punk who wanted to go for it. Like neither one of them really knows what they're doing, but he looked like he knew what he was doing against someone who, by all accounts, should have been able to beat him up pretty easily. So I would say he's a real boxer. I don't know how it looks when eventually, this all has to end eventually with him either giving up the ghost and saying, yeah, this was all publicity. I'm glad I did it, had a good time, but I'm not a real
Played you
boxer. Or he does continue on the path of boxing, and eventually he's got to get a title fight because he's the biggest star they have and he keeps winning. And I can't imagine he wins that fight, like you said, because presumably the champion's the best that there is, and they'll be about the same size and probably about the same age. So I don't really know how this story ends for him or us, but I think he's proven that he's at least a decent fighter. He's serviceable, and you know what? He sells crazy tickets. So he doesn't suck, and he sells crazy tickets. That's all anyone needs to book him. And I think he's proven both of those, that he is a draw and that he can put on a serviceable fight in front of a big crowd. And if you're a promoter, that's what you want. More than anything else, that's what you want. Although, like I said, the championship run that I'm sure he eventually, this has to end there eventually, or he'll lose to somebody before then. But he'll eventually, if he keeps winning, be it against basketball players or otherwise, people are going to ask for him to have a real fight against the real champion for the actual title. And I don't know how that ends. Probably not well for him, but I said that about the Woodley fight, and he did win that fight. So who knows?
I think
Paul
it
is a
comes down to,
cruiserweight.
yeah, I think it comes down to a culmination of boxing is trying to survive as much as possible. And they're riding this wave right now and trying to get as much, income and publicity from Paul, but he's not a boxer until he fights a boxer. That's my opinion on it. He needs to fight an actual boxer who had to actually, he can't just keep on fighting former UFC guys and basketball players and then get a title fight. Like this, that's why the 5th fight was so important, because he was going to fight Fury's brother, and Fury's brother would have washed him across the map. Just would have destroyed him, most likely. A professional boxer who's been boxing since a kid. Tyson Fury's younger brother. You don't think he's a good boxer? He could probably break,
right?
He
has to be decent,
right?
Yeah.
So like that's the next step. It's gradual progression. He went from amateur. He's starting to get into, he's becoming an amateur now. He needs to fight an actual boxer, because I box on weekends at the gym. Am I a boxer? No, it's me trying to lose a couple of pounds so I look good in May and June and July.
Did you beat Tyron? You didn't knock him out, but did you beat Tyron Woodley?
Yeah, but here's the thing though, all right, he's a UFC fighter, but that's like that's like me, I'm an engineer, it's trying to put me into another job. I don't think I'm gonna do that well either. I don't know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? You don't have that comfortability.
Oh, I get that.
You know what I mean? You don't have the skill set that you Woodley might have the skill set of a fighter, but a boxer is a totally different world. Type of thinking.
They put the kid from Bizardvark into a fight with a UFC fighter, and
listen. I also think it's fixed though. Listen, I also think it's fixed. Well, I mean, I think this is as good as wrestling. This is like WWE wrestling.
If it's fixed, I'll give you that. Like I said, I think if it's fixed, that's totally different. But all I'm saying is, while I agree, he's definitely, again, in a fight with a boxer. That's why I said that I don't know what a title fight would look like. But if we're going with, neither one of them are boxers, that's fair. But at that point, it's a UFC fighter against a YouTube vlogger.
And it's every day, bro.
Right, the vlogger won that one, and so again, I'm saying this knowing that, but
a rich YouTube vlogger who could literally spend all his time boxing. It's the same thing when people were like, "Oh, Adrian Peterson came back in 6 months after torn ACL. His job is football. All he did every day was
practice for football, of course." And
you know what I mean? It's just how it is.
Both of them could beat me. You said you box on the weekend, so you probably have a leg up on me as well. I'm not saying this as an authority on boxing. I'm simply saying that either they're both boxing and he won a boxing fight, or neither one of them was boxing, and in which case an actor beat up a UFC fighter. And either way, I think it's impressive for Paul. Either way, no matter how you spin it, either he won a boxing fight against another fighter, or two people who have no business boxing had a fight and he still whooped someone who really probably should have beat him down. So I think it was a big fight for him.
I'll agree on that.
Fight for him. I'm curious to see what happens next, and I know boxing is, because again, they're making money. So
don't forget, Floyd Mayweather fought Logan Paul this year in a match.
I already did forget that. So see, that's how you know.
I wanted to
Paul's the
forget
real
that.
deal because I didn't remember Logan Paul did it at all.
Wow. I have no choice but to accept that the end of this 2021 retrospective ends with a conversation about the Paul brothers. It's officially waving the white flag for that one. But hey,
Another L for 2021.
Let's stamp L in 2021.
on that note, guys, literally, this was everything I was hoping for. I had a great time with you. And seriously, absolutely amazing time, guys. Reflecting on the good, the bad, and the ugly from sports, pop culture, news, politics, business. It was a great time. And I just want to thank you all for an awesome experience. And I hope we could do this again a year from now. And we'll see where this country goes, where the Paul's boxing career goes, and then, of course, where we're at a year from now. Seriously, great job, guys, today. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Matt, for
Thank
having
you.
us on.
Pleasure.
Nice meeting you guys. It was a lot of fun.
And nice
All
talking
right.
to everybody.
All right, Brian, Ryan, and Alex, have a great night, everybody. Thank you.
Happy New Year, guys. See you later.
Happy New Year.
Happy holidays.
And let's cap off 2021 right now.